A black Audi police car and a police van were speeding down the runway at Brussels International Airport to intercept an emergency situation. A Helvetic Airways regional jet bound for Zurich, Switzerland had just been given instructions to push back for departure. The pilots go through their before taxi checklist, and as they are about to release the brakes and move the aircraft, the police car swerved right in front of the jet, immediately blocking its movement. The reason for this sudden interception? The aircraft carrying almost 29 passengers was also carrying the most wanted passenger hiding in the cargo bay. However, this passenger was not a person. It was a parcel containing diamonds worth more than $50 million. And the police were there to make sure that this high-value parcel never left Brussels. Surrounding the departing jet, they were not there to protect the parcel or arrest anyone. They were there to seal it in just under 180 seconds. On the evening of February 18, 2013, at Brussels International Airport, a Helvetic Airways regional jet pulls into its parking just a few hundred feet away from a high-security cargo loading zone. A few minutes later, a security vehicle patrols the tarmac, circling the area to ensure it's clear. Once satisfied, the guard signals the green light. A Brinks armored truck begins its short journey from the nearby cargo building to the parked aircraft. Inside was a shipment of sensitive bank documents, traveler's check, and 130 sealed boxes of diamonds valued at over $50 million. That evening, just 2 ground staff members were servicing the aircraft, loading baggage and prepping it for departure. And astonishingly, the Brinks truck had only 1 armed guard protecting the entire multi-million-dollar shipment. A few miles east of the terminal building, 2 police vehicles, a black Audi and a black van, idled just outside the airport perimeter fence in the dark, waiting for the right moment to enter the airport. A few minutes later, a man in police uniform and tactical gear steps out of the car and pulls out a pre-cut section of the fence to allow a clear access to their vehicles inside the airport. And these people in police uniforms were not the Belgian police force. They were highly professional robbers who were getting ready to rob one of the most prized cargo at the airport. But the real question was, how did they know which of hundreds of flights out of Brussels was carrying tens of millions in diamonds? And more importantly, how did they know the exact moment to slip in undetected from a precisely chosen blind spot and walk straight into the heart of one of Europe's busiest airports? Few months before the heist, 2 men meet at a garden in Brussels discussing about the possibility of robbing an armored truck carrying valuables such as cash, diamonds, and gold. Both men do not use their real names. Instead, they refer to each other only by initials Mr. A and Mr. B. Mr. B suggests the best way to execute the mission would be to ambush an armored truck on an empty highway. Tactile, fast cars, and would be quick in and out job. However, Mr. A suggests this could become messy very quickly. The armored truck could be escorted by police cars, and in an ambush, they could even bring in air support and SWAT teams, which could escalate the situation, and escaping with millions of dollars worth of loot could become nearly impossible. And therefore, he asks Mr. B to find a scenario where the armored truck would be most vulnerable and with minimum security. Mr. B agrees to Mr. A's logic and asks him to give him a few days to come up with a low-risk plan. A few days later, Mr. B meets a man right outside the Brussels cargo terminal. This man was a low-paid ground worker who had been working at the airport for more than 3 years and knew aircraft movement and cargo schedule by heart. Mr. B asks him what part of the airport stores high-value cargo like cash and gold, and the worker points directly to the high-security cargo loading zone that moves millions of dollars of cargo each month across Europe and other countries. He also discloses a bi-weekly schedule of a Brinks armored truck that makes regular trips between Antwerp Diamond District and Brussels Airport carrying millions of dollars worth of diamonds and other jewels. For a sum of €2,000, Mr. B asks the ground worker to steal the roster sheets for their next Brinks truck delivery so that they can put their mission into action. And the very next day, the ground worker manages to steal a copy of Brinks' schedule and hands it over to Mr. B. He takes the schedule to Mr. A and suggests that the cargo holding zone would have minimum security and they can ambush the truck during its transit on the tarmac, posing as a ground staff. He also adds that an insider will also help provide a ground staff uniform and fake IDs to gain access to the airport without suspicion. However, Mr. A, who was clearly the mastermind of this heist, quickly finds the most obvious flaw in this plan. He explains if they ambush the armored truck at the airport, they still won't be able to gain access to diamonds or other valuables because these trucks are bulletproof and can only be opened from the inside. And in an open airport, they'd instantly attract a lot of attention with zero leverage. And therefore, he asks Mr. B how Brinks moves this cargo inside the airport. And Mr. B tells Mr. A that according to the roster, the cargo is loaded into an aircraft just a few minutes before its departure to minimize risk. And this is when Mr. A finds the perfect window of opportunity to strike. He suggests that passenger aircrafts are not bulletproof, and if they manage to successfully get hold of the plane once the cargo is loaded onto the plane, they can use some force and intimidation to gain access to cargo, all from outside. Both of them finally had the most efficient plan for the heist, and they set out to take their mission to the next level. In the coming days, Mr. A brings 4 professional robbers on board and explains the whole plan to them while instructing them to arrange a list of items they'd need to plan and execute the heist. One man is ordered to arrange 8 police uniforms and tactical gears, 2 others are ordered to arrange a large vehicle, possibly a van, to carry the loot and all other personnel, and the last person is ordered to arrange a fast car to get to the aircraft as quickly as possible. In the meantime, Mr. B, along with the airport ground worker and 2 others, drive around the airport outside perimeter to find the weakest and least monitored area of the airport to finalize a breach point and a blind spot for the security. And they finally arrive at a tall fence at the far end of the runway where the ground worker tells Mr. B that the CCTV cameras in this area are mostly broken and do not have a real-time feed, at least till they are repaired. And he also points to a small construction site mentioning regular digging and construction workers keep moving in and out at this end of the runway, and because security patrol is aware of the construction project, did not suspect if they see some more people in construction uniforms working on equipment or even repairing a large section of the perimeter fence. A few days into the planning, the person responsible for arranging a fast sports car meets a man named Mark Bertoldi, a luxury car dealer from the French Riviera. Mark agrees to provide a fast Audi sedan to the woman with a condition that he'd be given a fair share of the heist and will not be directly involved in the heist. He'd only arrange the car. The woman agrees to Mark's condition and drives off with the car provided by Mark. On a quiet cold night in Brussels, 2 men approach a parked taxi van, successfully unlock the vehicle, and drive off to a discreet location. In the meantime, Mr. A and Mr. B are able to gather a satellite image and a layout of Brussels International Airport to mark positions and find the most efficient route for the mission. With the help of airport ground worker, they figure out usual position of the aircraft that carry Brinks cargo on bi-weekly basis and also calculate the distance between the departing jet and their point of entry to determine the speed of their cars in order to reach the plane precisely on time. If they reach early, the $1 million cargo would still be in the armored truck, and if they reach a bit late, the plane would have already departed and taxiing to the runway, and intercepting a speeding jet down the runway could lead to a catastrophic failure. And therefore, to hone in on the precise timing of departure schedule for the flight, they arrange a few VHF scanners that allow them to eavesdrop on ATC communications so that they can strike just in time. The next day, a team of robbers who stole a taxi van on the previous night repaint the van in black color in a small garage and install fake police lights on both the vehicles. And meanwhile, near the far end of the runway, two robbers posing as construction workers discreetly cut a large hole in the perimeter fence, making it appear as a repair job to allow their vehicles to breach inside the airport on the day of the heist. All 8 people with police uniforms, tactical gear, VHF scanners, and repainted cars finally set their target in the coming week of February to execute their mission. February 18, 2013, Antwerp Diamond District. 2 AWDC vault workers received a pre-scheduled order of prepping a shipment of polished and uncut diamonds, and they start packing, scanning, and logging the parcels in 130 small packets at Antwerp Diamond District's military-grade vault. Meanwhile, 3 robbers dressed as construction workers take position at the construction site at the far end of the runway at the airport to monitor ATC communications and to make final preparations. Around 120 miles away, a Herudek Airways regional jet is en route to Brussels International Airport. A routine flight that arrived at Brussels around 7:10 p.m. in the evening before its turnaround for Zurich, Switzerland as Swiss flight LX789. Back in Antwerp around 5 p.m., a Brinks armored truck arrives at the Antwerp World Diamond Center to pick up the diamond package from the vault. The shipment is moved from the vault and is loaded on the Brinks truck under military-grade security. In Brussels, 2 police vehicles arrive near the construction site at the runway perimeter fence and sit idle, waiting for instructions. The 3 robbers change their outfits into police uniforms and hop into the van fully prepared for the mission. A few minutes later, an informant from a highway radios to the robbers that the Brinks armored truck is en route to Brussels Airport and would reach the cargo terminal in an hour, and the mission is still a go. At around 7 p.m., the robbers listen to an ATC communication mentioning that the Helvetic jet is on its final approach and is clear to land. A few seconds later, the robbers watch the jet land right in front of their eyes. As the jet lands and starts taxiing towards its predetermined gate, one of the robbers hops off the van and removes a pre-cut part of the perimeter fence to allow clear access for breaching the airfield. At around 7:10 p.m., the Helvetic jet arrives at the gate and parks a few hundred feet away from the high-security cargo terminal. At around 7:15, the Brinks truck is cleared through the cargo checkpost and arrives and waits at the high-security cargo zone. Meanwhile, 2 ground staff members start approaching the jet to load the baggage and service the aircraft for its turnaround. It would take them around half an hour to fully load and service the aircraft. At the airport perimeter fence, the robbers switch from tower to ground frequencies to listen for all the ground operations, including the Brinks truck position. At around 7:30 p.m., an airport security vehicle arrives at the tarmac to make sure the area is cleared and signals the Brinks truck to move into position. At 7:40 p.m., the Brinks truck starts rolling towards the Helvetic jet. As the robbers hear for Brinks truck's movement, they slowly start entering the broken fence but do not rush to the runway, not yet. During the planning, they had calculated that it would take the Brinks truck roughly 15 minutes to transfer and unload the $50 million cargo onto the plane. And for the robbers, it would take them around 12 minutes from the far end of the runway to reach the aircraft, leaving them just 3 minutes or 180 seconds before the aircraft is cleared for pushback at 8 p.m. Just 180 seconds, no more, no less. The Brinks truck completes its cargo transfer and leaves the apron. At the gate, the passengers board the plane and the pilots perform a final walk around before boarding the aircraft. On the runway at 7:48 p.m., the black Audi and the van finally start speeding on the runway with police lights on to make it appear as an emergency situation. At 7:50 p.m., the pilots receive a pushback clearance from the ground control.
Brussels ground, Helvetic LX789 requesting pushback. Helvetic LX789, pushback and startup approved, facing east, QNH 1018.
The engines spool up, the ground crew removes all the equipment, and the pilots start going through before taxi checklist. At exactly 7:57, as the pilot released the brakes and pushed the thrust levers to start rolling the aircraft, the robbers' vehicle swerved right in front of the plane, blocking its movement immediately.
1 minute, 30 seconds. 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 1 minute, 30 secon
All the robbers get out of their vehicles, brandishing their weapons. 2 robbers run towards the 2 ground staff members and force them to walk towards the aircraft, while 2 robbers stand right in front of the plane, pointing weapons at the pilots and signaling them to not move a muscle. And 2 robbers take positions on either side of the aircraft to handle any incoming security forces, while 2 wait in the cars with engines running. The robbers force the ground staff baggage handlers to open the cargo bay and instruct them to remove all the packages of Brink's armored truck and put them in the van. Inside the aircraft, all 29 passengers, unbeknownst to the events unfolding outside, stay busy going through their phones and reading safety cards, believing they are just moments away from departure to Zurich. Within 2.5 minutes, the baggage handlers successfully transferred the Brink's $50 million diamonds into the van. No shots fired, no alarms triggered, only perfectly timed surgical precision. All the robbers get back into their cars and peel away from the tarmac. However, as they gun their cars for the far end of the runway, they find themselves in a very dangerous situation. An aircraft on final just a few seconds away is cleared to land on the same runway. The robbers floor the pedals to get off the runway as quickly as possible and finally clear the way moments before the aircraft lands. They exit the airfield from the same broken fence and vanish into the darkness. Back at the tarmac, the engines spool down and the pilots make the announcement that the flight has been cancelled. After the PA announcement, the pilots radio to ATC mentioning that this is possibly a hijacking situation by squawking 7500 on the transponder. The airport security is immediately alerted and all the units are advised to approach the aircraft with caution. Meanwhile, roughly 14 miles northwest of Brussels Airport, the robbers reach a quiet suburb of Zurich. Under the cover of night, they transfer all the loot into the black Audi and another civilian car already parked ahead of the heist, douse the van with fuel, set it ablaze, and flee the area. However, this was just the beginning of probably one of the most daring heists in the history of Europe. After the $50 million airport heist, the Belgian police force and Europol get into a full nationwide hunt looking for the people who carried out this heist. No one is spared. The flight crew, ground staff members, and even management at the Antwerp World Diamond Center is brought in for questioning. The pilots were asked to describe the robbers, and the only answer they had was, they all look like cops in tactical uniforms, all had masks and similar builds, except 2. They had smaller builds, and they probably were women. And the ground staff who was forced to open the cargo hold confirmed that indeed, 2 of all similar-looking gang members sounded like females. The authorities at least now had a preliminary profile of the gang: 6 men and 2 women. The next morning, they had 2 possible pieces of evidence at their hands. After sweeping the whole airport, the authorities find a large broken piece of fence casually hanging from a fence pole. They quickly realize this must have been the breaching point for the robbers to enter the airfield. They also find a nearby construction site and quickly assume the site to be the monitoring site for the robbers to learn about arrivals, departures, and other ground operations. A day later, they receive a call from Zurich mentioning that a burnt van has been found beside a country road in the area. When the authorities sweep through all the CCTV footage from the airport, it becomes crystal clear that the charred van was indeed one of the vehicles used in the heist. Deep into the investigation, the authorities also find CCTV footage of a black Audi making regular trips around the airport a few days before the heist. When they run the license plate for the vehicle, it comes back associated with Mark Bertoldi, the luxury car dealer who had provided the sports car for the heist. But this was not enough evidence to bring Bertoldi in. Until one day, a real estate dealer named Pascal Pond came under suspicion when he tried to sell a large sack of diamonds in Geneva. Pascal is brought in for questioning, and he admits that he was given the diamonds by a man named Mark Bertoldi. Authorities now had enough evidence against Bertoldi, and he is arrested on the grounds of being a co-conspirator in the Brussels airport heist. Bertoldi admits to having received diamonds after the heist but denied his involvement. In the span of 4 years, the Europol and other agencies go on a multi-nation-wide manhunt and apprehend 18 people, 15 men and 3 women that could possibly be connected to the heist. The case goes into trial in May of 2018 and Mark Bertoldi is found guilty and sentenced to 5 years on the charges of being part of the criminal organization, assisting robbers with a getaway vehicle, and money laundering. However, due to lack of evidence and overwhelming and convoluted supply of information, remaining 17 people are acquitted and they walk free out of the court.